you are spending $700,000 less than you otherwise would have for the year just because you've been able to outsource a lot of your team roles.
By outsourcing or getting remote team members versus hiring in-house, and regardless, we couldn't find the people in-house.
Welcome back to NEMT Experts. I've got Marina Kislyuk, the owner of a large NEMT business in Texas, who's done a lot of outsourcing. Marina, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks for being with me. Marina, could you just give us a background of yourself and how you got into medical transportation?
Sure. So Care EMS was opened about 30 years ago by my parents. I grew up with the business. My bus stop while I was in school was always wherever their office was. So I grew up, in the billing department, picking up phones and dispatch. It is a EMS service as well as wheelchair transportation. So I just grew up with it, and out of college, went and did my thing in the IT space. And then at some point, the family came calling, and we're like, well, we're ready for you to lead this ship. So I'm here now. I've been pretty much, running the company for about 15 years.
So this has been your destiny from the beginning.
Yes, one I couldn't run away from. I tried.
Awesome. Well, tell me a bit about the business. Where are you located? How many vehicles do you operate with? What kind of trips do you do?
Sure. So we're in Houston, Texas, which has the largest medical center in the world. We also have an office in Corpus Christi, and we're running about 35 units in total.
Okay. And you've been running the business yourself for the past 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How has the business changed in that decade and a half?
Oh my gosh, it's like it's a cycle. It's definitely a roller coaster with new regulations. I mean, definitely reimbursements have gone down, expenses have gone up. COVID was a fun time as well. Literally thought we weren't going to make it through. I sent the kids away, and I was like, all right, I guess it's our time to go. So it's been a number of cycles, and then just hiring became an issue with. There's just no people, no medics. People didn't really want to work, not in the office or in the field. So that's been a challenge, I would say, more recently.
Yeah, I've heard that across the board. Has your vehicle count increased or decreased over the past, 5 to 10 years with all these challenges?
So I would say one of our keys to survival and to success has really been to adjust. So, if we ever lose contracts or if things aren't going our way, then we decrease the number of units we're running. If we pick up contracts, we increase them. And so, it's definitely increased over the years, but I would say flexibility and being able to adjust quickly is really the key to surviving.
Absolutely. Tell me about the breakdown of the rides you do. So you do EMS rides, like ambulance, like ALS, BLS. You also do NEMT rides, like you do a lot of wheelchair rides. What's sort of the breakdown in terms of like your 35 vehicles and like maybe the volume of trips you do between each of those?
Sure. So about 10 are wheelchair NEMT transports, vehicle-wise, and then about 20 are ambulance. And again, we operate 24/7. So obviously not all of the units are always out on the road all the time. We have various shifts, and our wheelchair and NEMT business will fluctuate, based on maybe dialysis transports, more of them on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, versus trips on the weekend. So it just depends, and it definitely varies day by day.
Yeah, totally. Okay. And, given that you do a good amount of non-emergency medical transport and ambulance transport, your business runs 24/7. I assume largely to support the EMS side of things rather than the NEMT side. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
So what is your sort of breakdown of like who are you doing rides for? Are you working directly with hospitals more? Are you working with any sort of brokers for the NEMT side? Who's sending you the ride requests?
Sure, sure. So all of the above, and I would definitely say that our clientele has changed over the years. We've definitely been heading more towards hospital systems. We have a lot of government contracts, like with the jail and the sheriff's office. And for NEMT, we do a lot of also hospitals and various facilities, probably on the ambulance side, there's hospice companies, nursing facilities as well. But it has shifted to more quality transports that we know we're going to get paid for versus just kind of taking whatever, calls come our way.
Yeah, that's smart. Well, Marina, I want to talk about the outsourcing that you've done for a lot of your employees. So some time ago, you started using a company called Integrated Hire and just decided to outsource various kinds of roles like dispatching and billing through this company, Integrated Hire, and you got people in the Philippines and outside of the country. Can you talk to me about when you started doing that and basically how it's worked out over the time you've been doing it?
Yes, so this is actually a topic I'm very passionate about because we were having a really hard time, especially after COVID, to find people to come into the office to work. Our billing department had gone down from like 9 people to 2 people, where we couldn't get our bills out. Dispatch, we were just people would come apply, they'd work for a few weeks, and then they'd say, "Hey, this is too far from my house," or for whatever reason, they just literally did not want to work. And so I was kind of in a panic mode. And I'm part of, this business group, and I go to meetings once a month, and someone there told me, "Well, have you thought of, outsourcing or getting some remote talent?" And so they told me about integrated hire, and I have never looked back. So
When was this?
this was about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And besides getting the talent we need, so we ramped up from one remote team member to 19 at this time. So besides getting the people we need, we've also been able to save. So this year, we're saving, I calculated about $700,000 um, by outsourcing or getting remote team members versus hiring in-house. And regardless, we couldn't find the people in-house.
So
So
in 2025, you are spending $700,000 less than you otherwise would have for the year just because you've been able to outsource a lot of your team roles.
yes, yes. So we have all of our billing department. I still have a billing manager and one more girl in-house that's been with us for years. All of our dispatch. So on shift, we used to have 3 to 4 dispatchers per shift. And now we only have one in-house in the office, and everybody else is remote. HR department, we have 2 girls. We have a bookkeeper. I think that's it. So it's billing was kind of where we started. Then we went into dispatch, and then the other. So there's literally like 5 of us in the office, which honestly, it's amazing because there's no headache. There's
So you
no.
have 5 people on site, everyone else is outsourced. If you were not outsourcing at all, how many people would it be rather than 5?
Well, it would definitely be a lot less because we couldn't afford to probably have the additional 20 people. So we probably, just be working a lot more leaner. But I don't know, maybe we'd have an additional 10 probably at least.
Okay. So that's like, you know, the majority by a lot of your team is overseas and all in the Philippines, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Marina, can you tell me the story, like from the first person that you outsourced in the Philippines? It was a billing role, you said.
Yes.
Tell me like the story of how you worked with Integrated Hire to get that person on board and how things went from there.
Sure, sure. So initially we gave them the role that we wanted this person to fit. So they went out, they scheduled a bunch of interviews for us. We had the interviews and we just picked the first hire. I was really concerned because I was like, oh, how is this, how is this going to work? They're remote. We have to train them. How are we going to train them? But what's amazing is Integrated Hire kind of has all the solved already. So they know which tools we need. And they recommended one thing that made the biggest difference, which is to have everyone on camera. And what that means is, so pretty much the girls in the office have cameras, and so does all of our team members, do all of our team members overseas. And so when they clock in, when they come in, they clock in to start their shift, they just turn on their camera. So everyone is kind of always connected. We got multiple screens for all of our team members. So one of the screens has everybody on camera together. And so when they want to speak to each other, they just unmute their mic and they're able to communicate. So that's like huge because that totally, changes where someone is just out somewhere where it's almost like they're in your office with you. Um, and so we got the one, okay, let me go back. We got the one hire, and we started training her. So our billing manager trained her. And the next amazing thing was every subsequent hire in that department was trained by it's actually Crystal. It's a girl. She was our first hire, and she's still with us. And she has trained most of the incoming billing girls that we've hired into the billing department. So, and then ever since then, we started hiring two at a time. It just cut down on the training. And then if somebody didn't make it, because look, not 100% of them, always worked out. We definitely, went through some hires that were not good, and you kind of find out really quickly within about a week or two that they're not going to work out. And you just let Integrated Hire know, and they'll right away, set you up interviews for another one. They'll pretty much give you additional candidates. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. And, this sort of leads into my next one is if you can just tell me about like the process of working with Integrated Hire. So you got in touch with them and they said, hey, we focus on medical transportation as one of our areas for helping you outsource workers. And they basically just set you up with interviews of qualified candidates they had you interviewed. And you mentioned that the first candidate they put you in touch with, you were like, hey, we'll hire her.
Yeah, so we went through a few interviews, and the first one we picked that we hired has been with us ever since.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And yeah, can you just shed some more light on like the process with Integrated Hire and how they facilitate this all?
Sure. So I know they do some pre-screening. And again, the main thing is I tell them what role I need filled. And so they're looking for candidates that already have experience, right? It's not very easy to find someone who's maybe done, you know, uh, billing for an ambulance company. I mean, there's barely anyone in the US that has done that, right? It's such a small niche as an example. But they're able to find people that have done, medical billing in doctors' offices and other um, fields as well, that where they already know like 80% of the job or 90% of the job. So all we have to do is say, okay, well, these are like the ambulance codes. So it's really been an easy transition. And I would say that it's almost even better than the candidates we've received walking through the door, right? The ones locally, because I feel like, a lot of them just have more experience. They're eager to work. So that has been great. They're very thankful that, they have a job. They work during their nighttime, so there's a lot less distractions. But Integrated Hire does go through I think they go through some testing, some English to make sure that these candidates, are a good fit for what we need for that role. So main thing is just give them the role you want, and they will provide you candidates that have, a lot of experience within that realm.
Gotcha. And the roles that you've largely, outsourced are dispatching and billing, right?
Yes, like billing, collections, appeals. So billing, that process comes right at multiple different types of roles. So you have someone who does first time billing, someone who does, posting, someone who does appeals, someone who does collections, someone who bills our contracts. So we've been able to fill all of those roles with people who've had experience. And then for dispatch, we've been able to find, actually, a lot of our dispatchers, they already had NEMT experience. They maybe didn't have ambulance experience, but they did have NEMT experience, or they had experience in like appointment setting for doctors' offices as well. Um, the bookkeepers, of course, we use QuickBooks. So our bookkeeper that, has come on board with us, she knows QuickBooks software. So yeah, I mean, all of them have experience with, I would say 80% of what we need, they already know.
I was almost going to ask, what's the catch? Because this all just sounds so simple and good and easy. But, Marina, you mentioned it earlier that maybe not 100% of the people who you interview and bring on board are going to work out. But at least a good part about that is, from what I understand, you're able to swap them out and get someone else pretty quickly and test out different people and land on the right person pretty quickly if someone doesn't work out, right?
Yes, so there's no question we're saving like recruiting wise. Like we're not doing any of that locally. We're not paying thousands of fees to Indeed, which is what we were doing to try to get people in office and other platforms. Um, and the fact that they replace them, it's really a quick process. And you're not going to have everyone 100% of the time work out when they're coming in office either. It's just a much bigger and a much more costly headache to deal with local, I would say, talent than it is overseas. Because there, I just call them and say, hey, I'm sorry, this person isn't working out. Maybe their schedule, they said they could work our hours and now they can't. Can you get me someone new? And, next week I have new interviews and we just keep going until we're staffed where we need to be. And most of the people, that have started with us have stayed with us. Nobody's really left on their own. It's only been people that we've decided in our office that they weren't a good fit.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me ask you this. Let's say I'm an owner of an NEMT business and I'm interested in outsourcing because I see all the cost savings and efficiencies. And I'm thinking about, hitting up integrated hire and doing this. What are the key factors that I may need to watch out for that someone like you who's been there and done that, would advise me to watch out for?
Sure. So you have to remember that these are your team members, right? Once you've hired them on, they're like any other employee or team member you have, meaning you need to make sure they come to work on time, right? Because if they feel like nobody's there checking in, then people are going to start slacking just like they would here. So don't look at them as anyone different than you would hire here. You have to treat them exactly the same way. Make sure you get them trained. Make sure they have tasks, right? So if you just send them one task a day and then for the rest of the 8 hours they have nothing to do because you didn't properly, give them the tools or the tasks they need to be working on, then that's going to typically lead to failure because they're just going to start doing something else or they're going to get disinterested. Another, I would say, one thing to watch out for, there are some, and we've only had maybe one or two where it looks like they were maybe trying to do two jobs at one time. But you can easily catch that again. Hubstaff, which is a great tool that Integrated Hire recommended, and it takes screenshots of the screens and monitors like keyboard. And again, they're on camera, so they're in your office. So all of those things will prevent some of the kind of some of the issues that will arise. You'll be able to pretty much really quickly say, hey, this person just looks like they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, gotcha. So what I'm taking away is like when you're hiring someone for an outsourced role, bring them on. You can test out pretty quickly if they're going to be the right fit. And if they're not, it's pretty easy to swap them out and get someone else. So just try and test.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Gotcha. And most of them are going to work out. You are going to get, a bad apple once in a while, but I mean, gosh, to be able to scale so quickly and get, all the right people in the right seats, like I wouldn't be able to do it without Integrated Hire.
How many people do you have outsourced?
19. Right now.
Okay. Yeah. And in-house, you're 5. That is really something.
Yeah, we have a couple like more supervisors out in the field for operations, like FTOs. But in the office, yeah.
Gotcha.
And
Well,
I guess that's five on a daily basis because like dispatch, we have probably five in total, but there's one in the office because it's since it's 24/7, there's one in the office at a time.
okay. Well, that is an incredible ratio of people you have on site in the US versus outsourced people in the Philippines. Marina, are there any sort of final words of advice that you'd give to an NEMT fleet owner who's thinking about doing this and is on the fence for whatever reason?
Yeah, a lot of people that I speak to about it, because I have friends, right, in the business community that have various businesses, and I'm always like, the first thing I tell them, I'm like, you have got to try this. And a lot of people, they just can't wrap their heads around it initially because they're like, well, where do I start? Or how is this going to work? And just reach out to Integrated Hire. They will give you all the tools to make this a success. It is not difficult. Do not look at this as, well, how am I going to do it if they're not here? I'm so used to physically walking into someone's office. You will have a much less headache when you don't need to walk into someone's office. You just send them, a chat or a file, or you unmute your mic and talk to them because they're right there on camera with you. So there's no reason to wait. Another thing I would say is don't wait. Some people are like, well, let me get together all the tasks I have to do. Let these people that you bring on do all the planning and the strategy. They can get a lot of things together for you. You don't have to get this whole outline or, um, SOPs together for them. They can create all of this and document, what they do as you give them tasks.
Awesome. That's good to know. I love a company with good customer service. I will be
Yes.
putting the description and the contact info for Integrated Hire in the description of this video. Marina, thank you so much for sharing your incredible, awesome experience of heavy outsourcing. It's gone incredibly for you, and I'm betting that a lot of folks are going to get a lot of value from hearing your experiences and hopefully following in similar footsteps.
Yeah, no problem. And I have no problem if somebody wants to call me and just, if they have some questions or additional questions, I have no problem answering them. So please
Well, in
reach
that
out.
case, Marina, I'll be putting your contact info in the description of this video as well.
Okay. Run, Bambi, run.
Awesome. Thanks, Marina.